Welcome to this YouTube channel. Here is another video once again, and today I'm going to show you some new Excel functions. So let's get started on these new Excel functions. The first one I'm going to show you is two column. You have a data set, you want it arranged in one column. This is a function that you can use to achieve this. We're gonna have, for example, we have names here. We do have our names here. Trying to expand that, see. And we want to arrange them into a column format. Okay. So we have a new function called TOCOL. Open brackets. It takes the array that you want to rearrange into a column. They do like that, comma, ignore. Now, there are different options here. You can ignore blanks, you can ignore errors, you can ignore both blanks and errors. I think that's a 3. So if until we had anything in here, we would be ignoring, but we shall get to that. And these other two are optional arguments, which I'm gonna show you. So for now, let's first stop there and close our brackets and say, okay. Once we do that, you can see this data here is rearranged into a column format like so. And the way it has gone about this started with Ben, then Peter, Mary. So in other words, it went across like this up to Sam, then went back to John. It's scanning across the row. That is the default. So let's see if at all we had an empty space in the middle there, what would happen? So what would happen is that it returns a 0, James, and like so. However, if you do not want the 0 to be returned by default, let's try one and see what it gives us. There you go. When you do that, the blank goes away, or the blank position goes away. So remember, 1 goes away. The 0 will bring all the values as is. 1 will ignore the blanks. Then 2 will ignore the errors. And 3 will ignore both the blank spaces and errors. Let me show you another argument, which is scan by column. What we have seen now is it has been scanning by row. In other words, moves across that row, come back to this one, and move across this row, of course, ignoring the blanks because we have given it a 1. However, if you want your column to be scanned by the column this way, and ignore the blanks, what do? What we'll do is ignore the blanks. We shall keep that. The next argument, scan by column. And we are going to say true, scan by that column. When we do that, we can see that the figures are arranged, our data is arranged in accordance with the columns. In other words, it's scanning like so, from Ben to Agnes, N here to Agnes, then goes up to Peter, Harry, Peter, Harry, and so on. So those are the different options that you can utilize when you're using the two-column function. Before this function, you'll need to have used complicated Excel formulas to achieve this. With this, you're very efficient. Just a clear function, give it an array, tell it to ignore values, scan by row or column, and you are there. The next function we are going to look at is two-column, two-row. So let's see how it works. I'll say two-row. In other words, what I'm doing is changing this data into a row. So the first argument is the array. My array is right here, comma. This one works the same as before. 0 will bring the data the way it is. If there are blanks in there or errors in there, they'll all be displayed. 1 will ignore any blanks. But before we go there, let's first see what the default gives us, because the other two arguments are optional. So when I enter, it tells me it is spelling. When you see the spelling error, you get to know that there is some information that's blocking your rows or columns, whatever the case may be. When I do that, you can see that it arranges my data into one long row, and it is scanning. It starts with Ben, it's scanning by row. It's going by row. In other words, the scan by column is false. However, if you want to scan by column, we need to make the argument true so that it will run down to Agnes, go to Peter, like so. So to do that, of course, the one I have not shown you, similar to the earlier one, assuming I have a blank right here, delete that one there. You can see by default, it returns a 0. But if you don't want that 0 in your figures, what I'm gonna do is give it option 1, press enter, and it spills because there is not enough space. Create the space and it should be fine. Okay. So the spills, that spill error means that it is being blocked by some data. So what we have to do, let's repeat this, delete that, delete that. So I come back to this one here, and then I'm gonna say, change this data to a row, open brackets. What data is that? It's this range there. Ignore blanks. If I leave, if I put a 0 like this, it's gonna bring that blank, which is here, but it returns it as 0. But I come back and I say, I don't want that blank. I put a 1, then you see the blank space or the 0 goes away. Now, the way it has scanned it is Ben, Mary, Sam, like so. But if at all you want it by column, you go to the next argument where scan by column and tell it true. Yes, I want you to scan by this column, and then it goes from up to down, Ben to Agnes, Ben to Agnes, then it goes down to Hilary to Harry, like so, because I put a 1, ignored the space. That is the two-row function. Let's move to the takeaway function. Okay, now the takeaway function, what does it do? The word says take away. So let's see how we do these takeaways. Type take, open brackets, give it an array. This is my array, comma, rows. How many rows do you want to take away? I want to take away 2. How many columns do you want to take away? I want to take away 3, comma, 3. So what it is going to do, it's going to come, start from up 1, 2. So there will be this upper 2. Then I told it 3 columns, then it will count 1, 2, 3, so that our data will be this one here, as you can see right there. So you tell it, take away how many? You give it an array, tell it, take away how many? 2 rows, take away 3 columns, and you are there. Let's see whether we have, those are the arguments that are in there. Now, assuming now what this is the takeaway. Now, assuming I want to take away values from the opposite direction, what do I do? So we saw that when we said take away 2 rows, came and said 1, 2, then 3 columns, then 1, 2, 3, and it took away this and displayed in here. However, you may want to start from back. In other words, instead of starting from the first row here, we start from the last row going up, and also we start from the last column going this side. Let's see how we can do that. I'm going to say -2. Maybe let me first start with that. So -2 means take away 2 rows starting from the last row. The last row is this one here. To count 1, 2, display these ones. Then 3 is positive, so it will count from the beginning. 1, 2, 3. So I expect this one here to be my data. And rightly so, minus 2 rows. Let's change this to -2. See what happens. And rightly so, it started from the last row. It picked that one. It went to the next row. It picked that one. And because the column is positive, it started from the first column to the second column to the third column and ended up with this set here. That is the takeaway function. If at all we did starting from the end, also we could say -3, enter. So what it does, 3, 1, 2, then count 3 columns, but we are counting from the back. 1, 2, 3. So I expect these ones here. That is the takeaway function. You have an array, you tell it how many rows you want to take away, how many columns you want to take away, in which direction. Do you want to start from the start? You want to start from the end? The positive and negative indicate that, and you do that, you are there. The next function I have for you is expand function. What does expand function do? It expands the array just as the word says. For example, I have a 2 by 2 array right here. I want to expand it to a 3 by 3 array. The question is, what other values will I insert? Because if I'm going to make it 3, I need another value here to make it 3 row columns, I need another values here so that it is a 3 by 3. Let's jump into it and see what it will give us. So I say expand. What am I expanding? The 2 by 2 array, comma, into how many rows? I want 3. And then I also want 3 columns, like so. Press enter, and you are there. Because I did not give it an argument in case there is no value, it returns NA. If at all you don't want to look at these NAs, then you need to give a value for where there is no value in the array. In this case, I'll go to the next argument, and then I'll say, if there is no value, instead of returning NA, return a 0, like so, and then you are there. So the last argument, which is called path width, is for filling in the spaces that after it has extracted the array and there are gaps to be remaining, you give it a value, which is an optional value, then you return this. I hope this has been helpful. Next time we shall look at applications of these functions in real life. Thank you for watching and have a great day.